So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let each of the Wyland team members up on stage introduce themselves, but I will give you their names. Camille Camp, Ollie Thorne, Ceny, Hussie, and Yudhistira Pratama. Is that not too bad?
Yeah, that's correct.
Thank you. So I'll pass over first of all to Ceny, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself. They'll let you know where they work in the supply chain and actually how they got into it.
Ceny Hussie. I am the manager at Roebuck Export Depot. We're a registered establishment in Broome in Western Australia. We service predominantly the Kimberley and Pilbara region, and we provide a facility for the preparation and quarantine of cattle prior to live export. Predominantly cattle into Southeast Asia, with Indonesia being our strongest market over there in recent years. We also handle a lot of domestic cattle, so cattle in transit for multiple domestic markets, whether they need to be inspected and cleared, heading into feedlots, abattoirs, or just in transit between properties. I first got into the industry. I'm a Darwin local. It was an employment opportunity. There's so much opportunity up here just to be a stockman in the yards or anything with stations around, around Darwin. So I started in an export depot not far from here, and then casually sort of worked my way through the industry and haven't really looked back since.
Thanks, Ceny. Ollie, would you like to tell everyone who you are and a little bit about yourself? Thanks.
Yeah, Ollie Thorne. I'm with Australian Rural Exports based out of Brisbane now, vessel coordinator. So my job entails quite a lot of communication with all our external stakeholders, just trying to clean those lines of communication up. And then I work a lot in onboard, like our vessel-related continuous improvement projects. So whether that's efficiency or animal welfare. I came into the industry about 6 years ago. I came up to work on Beetaloo Station on the Barclay, and then I did some mustering, some contract mustering, working with export cattle, and came into the boat work as a stockman through that avenue. So I spent about 3.5 years on board as a stockman before AUSTREX gave me an opportunity to upskill myself and learn from the best in the office in Brisbane.
Thanks, Ollie. And Yudhis, you've got the microphone down there. Would you like to go next?
Yeah. Hello, I'm Yudhistira Pratama. I'm Indonesian. I live in Indonesia, but I work for Halleen Livestock Traders, which is an export company based in Perth, Western Australia. I started my career by introducing to the livestock industry from the NTCA Indonesia-Australia Pastoral Program back 2013 when I was a student in university. And then after graduation, I joined the company until now. So it's been almost 8 years. And then my position now is Chief Supply Chain Officer, which is oversee animal welfare implementation in the market. So currently we oversee Indonesia, Malaysia, and Vietnam. And my focus in the market is doing all the animal welfare things, including also the training to the supply chain staff. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Yudhis. And Camille?
Camille Camp. My husband and I manage my family's cattle station, Kalyeeda, which is in the Kimberley. So I was raised on Kalyeeda Station, so I guess I'd say I was born into the industry. Spent most of my adult life working on Kalyeeda. And I'm also an accredited onboard stock person, so I've done a few boats to Indonesia and Vietnam. That's pretty much me.
Well done. Thank you very much. And guys, you know, the thing is, I guess over the last two days, whilst we've heard about the positives, we've also heard a lot about the challenges of live export. Some of those challenges, I guess, are all about social licence. But there's other challenges too that have really reared their head in the last couple of years. And, you know, some of those are the cost recovery piece, We have to talk more and more about sustainability now. The labour market's challenging. You know, you kind of have heard a few challenges from the presenters during the week, but I'd like to know from you guys, because you're in different parts of the supply chain, so I think it'll be really interesting for the audience to sort of get your perspective from your part of the supply chain. But I'd like you guys to sort of talk to the audience a little bit about what keeps you up at night. What are your challenges in your part of the industry?
Well, I'd say for the immediate, for us as pastoralists, the biggest challenge at the moment is with biosecurity, obviously. Being in the Kimberley, biosecurity is a big issue for us. We don't really have a biosecurity plan, so that is a major issue, and I would say that definitely keeps the majority of Kimberley pastoralists up at night. Aside from that, a lot of what Millie was talking about the social licence, I think that's another big issue for us, and regulation with animal standards on stations. I think that's another big challenge for us as pastoralists.
Something that keeps me up at night, I guess, as a depot manager, I think the last few days we really focus on sort of shipment into market, and that's what we're really looking at controlling and portraying that message positively into, you know, Australia and worldwide as well. We heard yesterday that our perception around the globe isn't great. I think, and it's a challenge that I face often, we need to make sure our supply chain is tight, and I feel what's happening is with this massive, and I'll say over-regulation of what we have to do, all of these changes, all of these reviews, all of these different welfare policies from a bunch of different places. We fall under a lot of umbrellas of different welfare and different regulation. We need to make sure our suppliers are coming with us. So I feel that there's quite a disconnect in live export to our pastoralists. We're a very reactive industry, which has been a negative light for some time. And in a depot, we're very reactive to what walks off a truck. We often don't know what's coming, and I think the more we're able to be proactive in that space and strengthen that link between live export and our producers in our cow-calf operations or our farms is only going to strengthen our chain, and it's only going to provide us more ammunition, I guess, to promote our story publicly. So, yeah, I think it is a concern, and I don't think I've heard it in the last 2 days at all prior to a depot what goes on. But it is part of our supply chain, and I think we really need to remember that. It's as vital as anything we do. We need to make sure we don't have a weakness that these people can penetrate and pull a bad story out of. So.
That's really interesting, Ceny. Ollie, can you tell us a little bit about what keeps you up at night?
Yeah, from an exporter perspective, I suppose, to be really honest, I worry about my future employment and the future of the industry, you know, the existence of the industry going forward. I look at, you know, AUSTREX are involved in trade in New Zealand, and I've looked at the results coming out of our New Zealand consignments and all New Zealand consignments over the last 2 years. And to me, I can't align the two. You know, it doesn't seem that to be welfare based, nor does the proposed sheep policy over in WA. So I guess I worry that you know, if it's not welfare based, then is it not going to happen to us as well as a cattle exporter? So that's why I think it's so important for us to stand up for those both parties.
And we've definitely heard that, Ollie, sort of certainly yesterday, where that political decision is made, certainly without the facts being even looked at. So that was a common theme, I think, through the conference was let's not let that happen. Let's demonstrate our, you know, our good practices and really start to tell our story a little better. Of course, we always say that in every conference, but I think it's really timely to do that factual sort of check with the politicians as much as we can influence. Thanks, Yudi.
Yeah, for me, I think the last 3 days, 4 days, I've been joining the Wyland Livestock Leaders Workshop, and I've been thinking about how we can also make some change and improvement in Indonesian side as well. We want to make our Indonesian side too. They can increase their skills. We want to create more leaders also in Indonesia. So. From here, I think we want to do more trainings and leadership training, etc. in back Indonesia, because I think the human capital is really important. Beside all those things, to better implement animal welfare, we need to first look after our people first. That's it.
And Yudhistira and I were talking earlier today. It's the NCTA. That was the program, wasn't it? What a brilliant program to bring Indonesians into Darwin, was it?
Yes.
And you're a prime example of how that worked really well. I'm going to ask you now, so we've talked a little bit about, the dark side, the challenges that we all face. I'd really like your input in the job you're in or in the work you're doing or in your industry. What are the really good things that you kind of love about why you're in LiveExport and why you want to stay in LiveExport? I'll start with you, Camille.
I would say I'm very proud of how proactive and progressive the industry is. Looking back 10 years ago, working in a stock camp to what we do now, we've improved dramatically in our animal welfare standards. So I'm very proud of that, and I think as an industry we should be so proud of how far we've come. Aside from that, I would say the young people in the industry, the people that I see coming up amongst the ranks now, we have some amazing young people coming up, and I think this industry is great for promoting those young people and giving them the space to grow.
Similar to Camille, I think we sat in the Wyland AGM on Monday afternoon, and there was probably 30 or 35 people, and I think one was over 40. Would have been a bit of a worry. And to me, we're all friends at the moment. We're all great friends. We've got great relationships. We've been through the livestock leaders courses and equivalent. And so I think there's great opportunity there to create a very collaborative industry in the future. There's no reason that as we all go off into different sectors of the industry and we're working for competing companies with competing interests, I don't see any reason why any of us shouldn't be working together as best we can. So I think that's quite exciting and an opportunity.
I agree greatly with what you guys have said, so I won't touch on it again. I think LiveExport's a fantastic industry in the opportunities, the professional relationships that turn into great friendships that you can build. I have found myself there. Everyone in the industry is so willing to help. I've called a lot of people in this room at random times, and they've all helped. They've all supported me. They've all done, whatever they can, knowing that it's all for the greater good of the industry. I think everyone has that common interest that the industry needs to sustain, and as long as their positive questions are being asked, everyone's happy to answer and everyone's happy to progress with that, and I think that's really fantastic about LiveExport.
Yeah, I think because we are surrounded by really good people who drive us to the right way, I'm surrounded also good leadership in Australia, but in Indonesia as well. I think that's what makes this industry really interesting, and lots of things we can improve, in this industry. So that's where our young people can also drive that challenge into in better way.
I've been very impressed the way you end up in LiveExport sometimes, and I think it was you, Ollie, said to me today, you go on a ship and you've been trained and you're suddenly then totally attached to the LiveExport industry. And I think it's, I don't know if there's any other group that I know of. I know there's breed societies and they do, you know, youth camps and things like that, but just looking at the Wyland group, I don't think I've ever seen a group that actually looks after each other quite as well as you guys do. It's not, no one seems competitive, it's all collaborative, and it is all about making each of you being the best person you can be. And these leadership courses are just unbelievable. And I was lucky enough to mentor Carrie Moffat a couple of year ago, I suppose now, and I just couldn't get over the responsibility that you guys, some of you guys have at a young age. Would you like to talk a little bit about that? Because you know, sometimes you go into a company and, you know, you have this very obvious step up the ladder. In live export, it seems to be a bit different to that. It seems that you jump over here, then you jump over here, then you're suddenly responsible for this huge, you know, ship full of sheep or cattle or whatever, and it's only you, and you wake up, you know, having nightmares before you get on that boat, I'm sure sometimes. But is that a thing? Are there more opportunities in live export for young people?
Yeah. Look, I think what you just mentioned is exactly why I'm still here. I mean, in what other scenario can a 19-year-old kid, you know, be in charge of millions of dollars worth of livestock and their health and their welfare and the management of you know, dozens of crew members. So I think that that level of responsibility and then the responsibility to tell the story. You know, for me, I had friends when I started in export, when I started on the boats, guys in agriculture down south that had nothing against the industry, but still asked questions and still expected that the conditions on board and across the supply chain were ordinary. So I think that's probably the second part of it, is that you feel a great responsibility, I think, to tell the story when you see how it is. But yeah, we're incredibly lucky to have Wyland with such a diverse membership base. You know, we've got 47% producers, and there's opportunity there to, you know, for more targeted professional development, I think, to areas across the supply chain that need more work, you know, even from the older generations, so we can try and beat it by going back to the start and training our supply chain participants to be better.
And I suppose you've got two organisations, ALEC and LiveCorp, and you know, both have their own roles, and they were both responsible for putting on this conference this week. I wonder, as young people then, do you think the organisation, within those two organisations now, is there enough voice for young people? And if there's not, how do we fix that?
I'll start briefly. Look, I think from Wyland's perspective, I feel very strongly that Wyland's position or Wyland's part in that sort of area is to train the younger crowd to equip them with the skills that they need to contribute in that space. And I think, you know, now we're 4 years in, so the products of what Wyland's doing, and same with the Livestock Collective, both very young organisations. And I don't think it's until now and over the coming next 4 or 5 years that we'll actually see that start to take effect. We'll start to see that younger crowd coming up, I hope.
And so would it be something that you'd look at, do you think, or the organisations should look at, to maybe, you know, have a member of Wyland sit in on you know, the odd meeting or something, you know, board meeting where possible, and just start to sort of, you know, drag you guys into the decision making? And I think it's really important to have that good decision making when you get to a board sort of, you know, status, and because you're making decisions for the whole industry, and so you've got to have some depth and some understanding of the industry as well. And I think you guys, you know, from different parts of the industry certainly would have that in spades. Did you have a comment, Ceny?
Yeah, I think there's great strength in knowledge, and the more that we can include young people in these high-end decision-making processes, whether it be through boards of ALEC, LiveCorp, or whether it just be internally within your company, they don't necessarily have to have an opinion in these meetings, but exposing them to these decision-making processes and how you get there and what's important for the commercial value and also for the industry, it can't be a negative thing. It can only be positive. I also want to touch on the young people in the industry. I went to the last LiveX conference I went to was in Perth in 2017, 18, whenever it was, and the amount of young people I have seen at this conference compared to there it's not even comparable. So I think even in that short time, and that's greatly credited to YLN, there's a lot of people in the industry and there's a lot of people that are really passionate. They're spread right across all aspects of what we do. So I think the conversation has started and the movement has started, and there's plenty of people in industry that want to grow with it. And yeah, I think the more that we involve them in these conversations, the stronger our industry is going to be and the better we're going to be able to tell our story.
Yudhistira, did you have a comment on that or not? All good. You know, I think this could be one of the reasons the conference facilities don't make a lot of money is because they have so many young people at this conference that the drinks bill at the end of the afternoon, I think might be a little higher. I'm just thinking about, we've heard a lot today also about technology, the Internet of Things, that, you know, everything from AI, when I say AI, I mean artificial intelligence, and robotics and, you know, all the agri-tech that's available, and it's just now a matter of putting it all together. And I think when I joined the LiveCorp board, I was surprised at the uptake had been a little slower than I would have thought of technology. And when you pull it all apart, it's all about, you know, Wi-Fi not being available on board ships, and, you know, I kept saying, but why can't you? Why can't you? And the reason was that there was not connectivity, and that was a real challenge. If you guys were sort of looking at a technology that would help you in what you do, what might it look like? Or is there something that, you know, you use already that you'd like to talk about?
Yeah, for us in Indonesia, we are in the Forum Animal Welfare Indonesia. We starting to use technology and also like media social as well. You know, we want to create a website that every animal welfare officer in Indonesia has an account, and then every time, you know, we have new standard, we can inform them straight away, and they can have a test, you know, and everyone can be informed about the standard, and everyone understand about the standard. That is what we currently doing in Indonesia. So I think using technology is good, but we need also to remember that using technology has to be based on what we need, based what the consumer need. So that's what we need in Indonesia, and we are working on it.
And Yudhistira, I'm just going to give you a question without notice down there, I'm sorry. But so tell me, in Indonesia, is it a positive that SCAS, you know, is in train and is working? Is that a positive for consumers in Indonesia?
Yeah, of course. We talk to the abattoirs owner, abattoirs managers, or even slaughtermen in Indonesia. Everyone keep positive about the SCAS. And you know, this is maybe, I don't know, everyone ever talk about this one, but animal welfare and animal handling or good animal welfare implementation has correlation with the religion thing. Like, let's say in Indonesia, mostly we are Muslim, and good animal welfare practice, it's also correlated in our belief. So let's say implementation of slaughtering the cattle, the way how we slaughter, it's also included in SCAS standard. So implementing SCAS standard meaning implementing as well their beliefs. It is the approach that sometimes mostly we do in Indonesia. So I think that's it. Yeah.
A real positive. Anyone else got a comment about the technology you're using or would love to have?
I think live export moves at rapid pace, everything we do is quick and we're constantly developing, we're constantly moving forward. I think we need to just make sure we're getting the technologies that we use now and that we require now right before we get too far ahead of ourselves. And that's going back to basic things of, you know, the NLIS database. There's still work to be done there before we then rely on a database that isn't 100% as our biosecurity, you know, means of protecting us against disease and things like that. So, yeah, I think every now and then we probably just need to ground ourselves a little bit and just make sure we're executing what we've got properly before we jump into greater technologies that might fail if the building blocks aren't there, I guess.
And then I guess platforms that actually talk in between members of the supply chain is the most important. Then you can have the continuity of data as well. Camille, anything you guys use on the station that you'd like to talk about? Not really? Good. Look, I think we might now, we might open up to questions. If anyone has any questions of anyone on the panel, please put your hand up and we'll get a microphone to you. Just down the front there. Thanks, Ruby.
Hi, thank you. Ruby Canning, I'm one of the Angus Youth Scholarship recipients here. I just wanted to make a comment on, you know, the ability Wyland has to really engage with so many people. I'm all the way from Victoria. We've exported cattle a fair few years through AUSTREX particularly, and I just think Wyland does such a good job at engaging with producers and youth in agriculture and the entire industry. And I think from an international perspective, I guess, do you as a Wyland committee member have, probably to Camille and Ollie more, this is a question aimed at you two, but how do you plan on engaging with other international, you know, under 40-year-olds, for example, that are involved in live export? Have you got any outlooks on, you know, engaging with more international people as young exporters in particular?
Well, we already, thanks, Ruby. We are collaborating already a little bit with Forum AWA, which is the equivalent in Indonesia. And I think there's a lot more work we can do there to, I mean, we're obviously very young, but our learnings so far, particularly around securing sponsorship and showing investors a return on investment, which is pretty important when it's not that tangible. But absolutely, we'd love to explore opportunity elsewhere in the supply chain. Just haven't quite got there yet.
Any other questions? Oh, one.
Sorry,
microphone
I'm
over
the
to the far left. I think Billy, have you got the microphone? Yes.
Yeah, Billy Marshall. The question is for the whole panel, but I'm just going to pull out something. Ceny, you said that you feel very reactive, or, you know, in the feedlot system that use work in a reactive manner. Would you say that's based on, I guess, being underprepared in things like it was mentioned, the biosecurity plans, and that disconnect between the supply chain? And I guess in all of your roles, how do you see our industry improving that disconnect to move forward, whether it's, you know, attending conferences or events like this? What is causing that reactiveness, and I guess how can we approach it as the young people moving forward in the industry?
Thank you for your question. I feel reactive. I think it's a direct result of a lot of regulation, and a lot of regulation coming in very quickly. We're constantly in reviews. We're constantly in, you know, ASIL 3.1, 0.2, 0.3, whatever we're up to now. And I think as a business, we're so focused on making sure that we're compliant and we're doing the right thing that the message is probably stopping with us, and I don't know that it's quite getting back to the pastoralists that it needs to. That comment was, ideally, I would love to be able to share that burden a little more through the pastoral industry. And if cattle could walk off a truck ready to go on a ship, and there didn't need to be that reactive sort of behaviour, I guess, that we do, and trying to sort everything out and being quite time restricted to get everything in order, it would make it easier for the whole supply chain, and it would make it stronger. It would give us less areas where people were going to be able to get in and get a negative story. How we do that, I don't know. I try very hard in our business to keep an open gate policy, and any pastoralists that want to come in, I've put it out, you know, if you want to bring your head stockman in, you want to bring your camp in, and I will make time in my day just to talk about regulations and talk about what might happen with your cattle when they walk off a truck, because there's a lot of pastoralists I talk to that don't know. They don't realise that their one line of Brahman feeder steers might get drafted 4 ways, and why, and understanding that market. That's something I can do within my role. I would like to do more. How, I'm not too sure, how we reach further back into the pastoral industry and try and bring them along with us and try and get them really engaged in the compliance and all the regulations that we're constantly getting thrown at us. I think the greater education and the more compliance from the start of our chain, you know, the little SCAS picture was up here before, and it starts at the farm. You know, everyone has a responsibility, and I think it's really heavy on exporters and on depots to be reactive and to fix everything and to make it perfect and present that perfect shipment. I would like to see producers a little bit more involved in that, but open to discussions on how to do that, and I'm very willing to throw my hand up and become a part of anything that we need to do.
Thank you, Prue, and the panel members. Mark Harvey-Sutton from the Australian Livestock Exporters Council. I just wanted to make a statement for the record. The CEO of ALEC is a YLEN member. We have 2 directors that are YLEN members. I note the CEO of the Northern Territory Cattlemen's Association is also a YLEN member. So I just want to make the point that they're already running the industry. So I think we need to acknowledge that and see that the change is coming. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Maybe LiveCorp, you know, we might need to do a little bit of work on that ourselves. Any other questions? Look, Don, I think that could be it. Thank you very much to Yudhistira, to Ceny, to Ollie, and to Camille. Put your hands together. They're marvellous. That was a marvellous chat. Thank you.